All right, we're live.
All right.
Okay. Good to see you. So we're in just off Panama City, and in the Islas de las Perlas, and we're parked over there. And Helen and I were looking over, and I saw this awesome wooden boat. So I paddled over, or actually motored over with a few beers, and I met Adam. So this is what year is it?
1961, Rob 35. It's Cheoy Lee.
And so, in a few days, what are you going to do with this thing?
We are going to sail to the Galapagos, and if they let us in, great. If they don't, we'll keep going and head out to the Marquesas.
Cool. So, who's we?
Rose and I. That's the boat. Boats are the closest thing to a living thing that a human being can make, I think.
I think you're right. Didn't it? I forgot now, butcher it, but the closest things that man has, or closest things to dreams that man has ever made, something like that.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Anyway, you were showing me your boat. This is a freaking awesome boat, and I guess it was owned by a carpenter prior to you, and he's 30 some odd years of working on the boat.
Yeah, so Don had the boat for 33 years. I think he worked on it more than he sailed it. I think they had it in California for decades, and about 7 years ago, they slowly made their way down the west coast through Mexico. Yeah, him and his wife through Mexico, and then Central America, and then ended up on the other side of the canal in the Caribbean side. And their plan was to sail it back up through the Caribbean to the U.S. And life got in the way.
Right on.
And so they decided to sell it, and he wanted it to sell it. He told me he wanted it sold within a month of putting it on the market because wooden boats shouldn't be sitting without owners. That was.
I agree.
So,
and did he?
Yeah. I bought it 10 days after when it was listed.
And you bought it sight unseen.
Sight unseen.
How'd you know? I'm like, what? How'd you know that you were going to get this is an amazing boat? How'd you know it was going to be?
I didn't know. I was shitting myself for the 3 weeks between when I bought the boat and when I made it down to Panama to actually look at the boat. And when I finally got down
Did you wire the money, or just how?
I sent him the money. Yeah, just it's a bank transfer. But okay, so I'm not an idiot. I'm not one of those guys that's just gonna like give all my money to some Nigerian prince, by
but you've
email.
Been tempted.
He had made a website. There was maybe 70 or 80 pictures of the boat on the website. I had a couple of really long conversations with him, and I actually called the marina and spoke to the marina manager independently of him
At Shelter Bay.
And he was like, "Oh yeah, Don and Kathy, yeah, it's a beautiful boat. It's a really nice,
right on.
you're not going to make a mistake."
For
yeah,
sure.
exactly. So I felt like I had done enough due diligence to pull the trigger without actually seeing the boat, but I didn't know what I was getting myself into, and I just got really lucky because wooden boats more often than not are just cluster of work. Yeah.
So we've been on the road over a year. We've met some interesting people, hands down. You've got to be in the top 5 most interesting, and I say that as a compliment, cool dudes I've met thus far. And one of the things that blew me away is on your right forearm as soon as I walked on.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can see that in the video, but what kind of work had you done prior?
I am a professional alpaca shearer. Yeah.
So you're a professional alpaca shearer who bought a wooden boat in Panama, sight unseen. May I say how much you bought it for?
10 grand.
10 grand.
Yeah.
And now, in just a month later, you're going to sail to New Zealand.
Yeah.
And 13,000 miles, something like that?
No, it's about 7,000.
Oh, 7.
Yeah.
Okay, only 7,000.
Yeah. I mean, it's it's a fair stretch.
It is a fair stretch.
Yeah.
By yourself, just
By
you and
myself.
Rose.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Well,
yeah, we'll see what happens.
I'm pretty sure you're going to make it.
Yeah.
So some other things about the boat that were just stunning to me. Just first, it was made in '61 in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
And Cheoy Lee, and the last one I had for 30 some odd years.
Yeah.
And you've got 50 gallons of diesel.
Yeah.
It holds 70 gallons of water,
He's at 78.
78.
Yeah, 76. Sorry.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's got a wind vane on it, so it steers by the wind using the wind as an autopilot.
Yep.
And you figured that out. And it's just you.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that I love about this boat is, in a lot of ways, it's exactly the sort of boat that if I had to sit down with just a bare hull and build a boat,
This is what you make.
this is pretty much exactly how I would do it. Because Don is one of those guys that obviously he liked to keep things simple and he appreciated the classical aesthetic of the boat.
Yeah.
But he wasn't someone that was just trying to keep a boat in the 60s.
Yeah.
You know, like he wasn't afraid to add
Things that would
carefully thought out additions to the boat. So like the satellite phone,
Okay.
for example,
Yeah.
the refrigerator,
Yeah.
the auto tiller, the engine even. So this boat didn't come with an engine originally. This engine was put in 1987.
Wow. And what kind is it?
It's a Mitsubishi Vetus diesel, and 1,300 hours on it. 30-year-old motor. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a few hours than we have on our boat.
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty crazy.
You know, and we had some problems with the fuel pump. That it happens. Other than that, she's run like a top. But I don't plan on motoring that much. My last boat didn't have an inboard. I had a 8 horsepower outboard on the back of it. My 32-foot
Right on.
boat, and
Contessa.
just get in and out of the marina, the harbor, or whatever.
So how'd you decide to do this?
Just decided to do it, man, and I did it. Yeah, I didn't actually think it through that much. You know, I was dreaming about getting out of Arkansas. That's why I was looking online of classifieds every day. And when this boat popped up, I just bought it. I didn't think through the implications of that. It wasn't until after I decided to get the boat that I was like, okay, that means I'm breaking up with my girlfriend, or I'm quitting my job and leaving, tying up all those loose ends, which was interesting for me because I've been traveling for so long. I've been traveling since I was 18, and it wasn't until 4 or 5 years ago that I tried settling down. That was tough to try and like sever friendships and relationships and that sort of thing. Never had to do that before, and it was really difficult. I can't imagine what it'd be like for someone who's been sedentary for 20 years. You know, like it must be so hard for a retired couple to
Decide to do this.
to decide to do this. Like it's just crazy. Yeah.
It takes some nuts, though, to do it. You know, we met a few single guys who've done it, and they all have kind of come to the conclusion, like, it's not going to happen. You know, I haven't found a wife who's going to do it. I haven't found a girlfriend who wants to do it, so I better just do it. But it's unique. I mean, you're probably the only Arkansas guy in the Anchorage, probably the only Arkansas guy in Panama.
Probably.
I mean, maybe one of the, if not the only single dude from the Midwest in Panama who's planning to sail around the world across the Pacific.
Arkansas is still considered the South.
Okay.
You don't want to tell someone from Arkansas that they're Midwestern. They wouldn't like it.
But, you know, why aren't there more people doing this, do you think?
Well, the largest body of water where my house is called Beaver Lake. So there's just not that many people who actually know how to sail. Yeah, I don't know why there aren't more people doing it. You know, in the last few years, so I owned a van. I lived in a van for years. And just recently, I got rid of my van when I moved to Arkansas and got a house. Just recently, the last like 3 or 4 years, the whole like van life thing has started. It's blown up on Instagram and social media and that sort of thing. And now everyone's like, oh, van life, I want to buy a van. It's like, where's the boat life? # boat life.
Do you think it'll happen?
Like, I do think it'll happen. And then it'll probably be after I've done, and then and I'm done with sailing, and I'll be like, oh, you guys with your boat license, get out of here. I was doing that 10 years ago. I don't know if it'll happen. I think I think it's happened in Europe. I think the Europeans are ahead of the curve, more so than Americans when it comes to alternative ways of living.
Yeah.
Because I have friends. I went to university in Europe. I went to University in England, and I have a lot of friends who've been living in vans for a long time.
Yeah.
That's where I got the idea to live in a van. And there was no like hashtag van life. It's just something that people have been doing, and no one makes a big deal out of it there. They don't have an Instagram page specifically for like how I built my van.
Yeah.
You know, they just build a van and just go. And if you do meet kind of young, intrepid sort of guys or girls traveling by boat, more often than not they're European.
Yeah. So
particularly French or British.
it seems that way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
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 So
Europeans will travel. They're very good. I see them everywhere.
Yeah, and they're so in England, for example, it's so hard right now for someone in their 20s to get their foot in the door in like a normal life. You know, like I have so many friends in the UK, not a single one of them owns a house. And most of them are late 20s, early 30s. Just can't afford it. You just can't buy a house. I mean, they're like the cheapest, shittiest flat in London in like a dangerous part of the city would cost you $300,000.
Wow.
You know, like the average person just can't afford.
Yeah, that's
you just can't get into the market. So like, there's more people who are just like, well, screw it. I'm just gonna drop off the grid. You know, and we haven't really I think that in the States we've started to reach that point as well, where there's more young people who are just finding it impossible. But the problem is that our problem is that we all have 70 or 80 grand or 150 grand in student loans, which they don't have in Europe because it's just a different system, you know. So it's like my ex, for example, wanted to do this, but there was no way that she could stop working because she owed $200,000 in student loans for her law degree and everything else. And it's like,
you can't do
you know, she hated practicing law. But you don't know that you're going to hate practicing law until you practice law.
That's exactly right.
And that's what, and at that point, what do? You know, like you're burdened.
No, you're exactly right.
And it's the same, I'm sure, in the medical field.
It
is. You know, you probably know a lot of young doctors who hate being a doctor. Maybe they wouldn't admit it. Maybe they wouldn't admit it. But like, you can just tell they're hating their lives.
Yeah.
You know,
like, and if they had the same thing happens in medicine, whereas you know, once you get in a year or two and you're not 100 or so grand, you know you can't even keep around because there's no way you can pay that off reasonably unless you get on to the whatever thereafter. But you know you talk about van life. It's kind of like a new concept. But this is a van life boat built, you know, in 1961.
Yeah, but in 1961, this was considered like a luxury boat.
What would someone in 61 do with this boat? Who would buy this boat from Hong Kong in 61, do you think?
Oh, I have no idea. Probably a retired doctor. I mean, our standards of luxury have shifted.
Yeah.
You know? So like 57 years ago, I mean, this is a beautiful boat, and there weren't many boats over 40, 45 foot being built. You know, like people were a bit more sensible about their expectations than now. You know, now people feel like, oh, I couldn't do it if I wasn't in a $500,000 50-foot catamaran or better. You know, because their standards of what they expect are so much higher. But you know, people don't want to sacrifice any convenience whatsoever.
It's true.
To make the dream a reality. They still want their satellite TV, they want their hot water, push a button, and that's fine. I mean, if you can afford all that stuff, it's great.
But you don't need it to be happy.
You don't need it
or to get around the world.
Do this, you know, to live this kind of way. And then a lot of times, if you depend on that stuff, you're going to spend more time at the marina fixing your water maker or your hot water heater.
The more complexity you put into it.
Exactly. You know, I think that you've heard of the parties, right? Lynn and Larry Party.
Oh yeah.
Their kind of mantra is like, keep it as simple as you can get away with,
Yeah.
and then just go.
Yeah.
You know,
I think
and
that's a right way to do
it's
it.
the right way to do it too.
We have a fairly complicated boat. You'll come over for dinner and see it, and there are many times, and actually it still harkens back to simplicity. Like the water tank is just a float,
Yeah.
But I like that concept a lot, and I think it's the right way to go, not just on a boat, but in life. And we've gotten away from it in such a big way and complicated everything that so beyond what it needs to be. What are some of the nuances of the boat? You're like, this is just genius. I mean, I have that feeling on our boat, but I would think you'd even have more. Like you were showing me your water tank.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
do you mind showing people that?
Yeah, that's fun.
That's really cool. So it's got the pump down here.
Yeah, so there's two.
Let me turn around if I can.
So there's two 30 under the settees here. There's two 35-gallon copper tanks, and there's a 3-stage water filter in here that runs up to this. Behind this board, there's a little 6-gallon day tank, and there's just a small, simple little pump that I have a spare one. Take it out and replace it in 20 minutes if I needed to, and I just flip the switch on the panel and fill this
There you go.
to the sight glass until it's full, 6 gallons.
And so you're probably like
and then it's and then whenever you need your water, it's just
shoots out of there.
it's gravity fed.
And there's your awesome. How cool is that?
It's just simple.
It's just simple. That's exactly
I mean,
right.
and it's not the simplest way you could do it. I mean, you could just have a little foot pump, and then you wouldn't need any kind of mechanism at all. That's what I had on my last boat, but I like this system.
I like it too.
To me, it's pretty genius.
Do you mind showing the steering weather vane?
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Here we are in the anchorage. You can kind of have a look around. Tiller, so no wheel.
Tillers are great because there's just not a lot to go wrong on
Yeah,
a tiller.
it's just a direct drive right to the.
It's right straight
to the
into
rudder.
the rudder post, and it's easy to hook a self-steering system up to a tiller, and they're responsive. That's one of the things I like. My last boat had a wheel. I really appreciate the tiller because you can just feel the boat a lot more when you're
Every swell.
Yeah, exactly.
But you don't have to be here every swell. I mean, you can go thousands of miles with this system.
With the wind vane set, that's right. So this is a monitor wind vane. Basically, this rudder drops down into the water.
Okay. Yeah.
And it locks into place.
Okay.
Once that rudder's locked into place, you have a vane that comes up
Okay.
here.
Just like a
It's
wind
a piece
cock.
of wood.
Yeah.
Just a thin piece of wood. And basically you set it so that it is pointing directly into the apparent wind. So it's straight up,
Okay.
pointing into the wind. And then you set your tiller up with these lines that run from the machine
I see.
onto the tiller.
Gotcha.
So once your boat's sailing and it's well balanced, you set those lines, and if the boat deviates from its course, the wind is going to catch on this vane, which is going to push this over, which is going to move the rudder.
And not
which is
only does
going
it
to
turn,
adjust.
it also kind of shifts over.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Well,
Very cool.
it's not locked into
I
place
see,
right
I
now.
see.
Yeah.
But you can go. I
and
mean,
then
you can
adjust
set
the
this,
boat,
and how long can you go without changing it?
Well, it depends on the wind. So
Let's say you're in trade winds.
as long as the winds are consistently blowing in the same direction, you don't have to change. You don't have to touch it. It's if the wind shifts, then obviously you need to adjust the vane.
Yes.
If you want to keep the same course.
Gotcha.
Right, and then you need to adjust the sails because
all you
the
need
boat
to
has
do
to be balanced.
Is have a compass when you're down there getting a
My
little cat nap.
compass, yeah.
Yeah.
And if you feel the boat it's changing course, you just come up and you just adjust this line a little bit and bring you back facing into the wind, and the boat will keep on sailing in the right course.
So
You might need to adjust your sails a little bit as well.
that's pretty crazy.
Unlike autopilot,
Yeah.
with an autopilot, if the wind shifts, the boat doesn't tell you that, and it's just going to keep pushing on the same course and stressing the autopilot out because it's having to push harder to keep the same course, which is why they brake so much.
Yeah,
you know, and you're not really the boat's not responding as well. You know, you're not feeling
and
it
this,
as much.
I mean, that's not a very big rudder, so all it does is just micromanaging. I mean, it's just doing little bits, little feathering of the course.
Exactly.
So I haven't asked you this previously, but what's your plan for watches?
The first few hundred miles until I get offshore, I'm just gonna
be awake,
set a little timer for 20-minute naps at a time.
Yeah.
I've got AIS on the boat.
Nice.
So I have my AIS alarm on my chart plotter, which is another one of those things that, again, it's just such a nice feature to have. You know.
And smart.
Just hope that I don't get run down by a container ship.
So going out from Galapagos, there's not much.
There's not much.
No.
Yeah, I think I'll be all right. You know, you always take a chance when you go to sea.
That's true.
So I'll mitigate that as much as I can. Got my AIS. Until I get well offshore, I won't sleep much. But then once I'm offshore, you know, just a couple hours at a time.
Yeah.
Wake up, check around, make sure it's still on course. And
I mean, you're only going 4.5 knots, so it's not like you're gonna.
Oh no, this boat goes 6.5.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful boat. Well, I mean, the thing that, you know, drew me over here is just, you know, seeing a single-hander on a beautiful wooden boat. But also, you know, it just takes a certain amount of courage. And do you have, I mean, how many people are stuck in dead-end jobs and dead-end parts of their life and aren't going to get out? I mean, so what, do you have any advice to any of those? I was a sucker, you know, anyone out there who wants to do it. I mean,
yeah, I got a piece of advice. Get a trade. I know that's a strange thing to say, but so many people don't value trades. The reason that I can do this is not because I don't have a trust fund. I have a good trade that pays me well, and I can work seasonally, and I can work all over the world doing it. Yeah. And there are so many trades like that. If you are handy, if you're a smart person, go to diesel mechanic school and buy a little boat, and every marina and harbor that you go into, you'll be able to pay. You'll get paid $50 or $60 an hour to work on somebody's boat.
That's exactly right.
That's all you need to get around.
Yeah,
you know,
you're absolutely
learn
right.
how to sew.
Yeah,
and bring a sewing machine and fix people's sails. You know, if it's money that's stopping you, learn how to do something useful, and then
that's an exceptional piece of advice. Because anybody can learn a trade, and you just got to stick your nose to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right on, man.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure.